Hello again, this is Martin from ABES, and this is yet another video clip explaining certain features of ABES geometry control software. In this video, I would like to explain report points. Report points are used to gain output from the software on certain points along our bridge objects. The software will provide 3D coordinates and also the chainage or station of the selected report points. And this is what we will be discussing in this video. So here is an example, a very simple example that we have prepared for this exercise. It's a perfectly straight bridge, it's perfectly level, no gradient, and it consists of a pier segment here in the middle with the pier right here in this point. This is the pier axis here. And on each side of this pier axis, we have a number of match cast segments leading off to both sides. And if we look at this pier segment first, I would like to show how we can get, in a first step, the points here on the corners, on this corner here, and on this corner here, and on this corner here, and then also here, in 3D coordinates. And I would also like to show how we can get the pier connection point, which is at the bottom of the cross section in the center of the segment in the pier axis. So let's generate the 3D coordinates of these 5 points, the 4 corner points, plus the connection point with the pier top at the bottom of the box section. I have here a drawing of the very simple cross section that we will be using. So we are going to plot this point up here and this point up here, and also this connection point here. The top points here we will plot at the corners of the segment, and this connection point we won't plot, but we will list the 3D coordinates at the center of the segment. For this purpose, we first turn to the cross-section definition, which is here. These are our points that constitute this cross-section. We have here those 3 control points that we saw on each joint, and we also have the connection point here marked out, and we are going to mark out and tick points in this column here. RP stands for report point. Now, take my word for it, point number 1 is in one corner of the segment, top corner, and point number 3 is in the other corner of the segment. And I'm ticking these points 1 and 3 as report points, and also I'm ticking the connection point here, not only as a connection point, but also as a report point. Accept, and I'll just calculate the whole project again. So all the data is updated, and if we go back to our plot of the cross section, I can now switch on report points and switch off all the other points, so we can visualize what we've just ticked in our definition. And now that plot shows us that we have defined number 1 and number 3 and the point down here, X, as a report point in our cross-section definition. So we've done the first step and we have defined the locations of our report points within the context of the cross-section. Let's quickly have a look at the segment group making up our bridge. So we have a pier segment here in the middle, and we've got cantilever segments off to each side, just like I showed in the introduction to this video. The pier segment here is defined up here. And this is the segment where we want output for these locations that we've defined as report points within our cross-section. So this pier segment consists of two what we call subsegments. Each one is 2.5 meters long, and we have 3 joints to play with. We've got subsegment start and then the middle joint, and then the second subsegment, and the end of that second subsegment marks the end of the segment at 5 meters. We have here our tabs for control points, connection points, and report points. And I'm clicking on the report point tab here. In here, we have now a list of the report points available in the cross section that makes up that segment or that subsegment. And if I click on the first subsegment here, we can now select report points for reporting purposes at the start of the subsegment and at the end of the subsegment. So this is the first 2.5 meters of our 5 meter segments. So I'm selecting now control point 1 and control point 3 at the start and control point X at the end of this subsegment. So at 2.5 meters, I'm asking for output for the connection point, and at the start of the segment at 0, I'm asking for points 1 and 3. I've ticked the boxes and I need to give them names now, and I'm happy to use this button here, asking the program to give these report points here default names. Sub 1 refers to the start of the first subsegment, and this is the end of the first subsegment, sub 2. Turning to the second subsegment, we got the same story here. In this case, I don't need any at the start because we've already selected them at the end of the first subsegment, which it coincides with the start of the second subsegment. So I'm only selecting 1 and 3 at the end of the second subsegment. And again, I am using the default name. Sub 4 means that we are at the 4th start end of the subsegments. I'm happy with these definitions here, and I accept this dialog. So we've now prepared our peer segment with requests for report point outputs at the start and at the end for points 1 and 3, and in the middle for point X. So let's just make sure that everything is updated, and we calculate our project again. Calculate all, just go through the whole project, updates all the entries, updates all the tags, and let's turn to the segment group next. In this segment group, the peer segment only shows up once. And when we click on the peer segment, we see that these 5 points are now available again to be selected, and we select them again for this segment. It's easy in this case because the peer segment's only here in one instance, but other segments are referenced more often, and therefore we have to make sure that we pick the points that we really want within the segment group. Otherwise, we'll get a lot of output very easily. Again, I'm ticking the points I want to use, the 1 and 3 at the start and 1 and 3 at the end, and X, the connection point, in the middle of this peer segment here. And I'm going to be lazy, and I'm using again the automatic default naming convention for these points. I could type my own names in here if I wanted to, but I won't do that. I am accepting these selections. I'm calculating again just in case, and I'm turning to the bridge object. Oops. So I'm clicking this off. Here is our bridge object. And in this bridge object, we now have the cantilever segment group referenced, and in the output for this bridge reference, where this particular segment group is only used once and it's placed on an axis, we can now ask for the final 3D coordinates of those report points that we have selected. Before we turn back to the bridge object dialog, which is here on the screen, I'd like to bring up the plot of that bridge again. And I would like to click on the bridge visualization here and switch on only the report points for visualization that we have in our bridge. And as we can see, the program recognizes that within this bridge object here, we have the 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corner of our peer segment, in the 4 corners. And if we turn around and zoom in, we can see that the program is also showing us, not very well, the connection point down here as a report point. These are the 5 report points that the program recognizes within this bridge object, and we can now interrogate our model and ask for the 3D coordinates of these points. There are several ways of doing this, and I will use the quickest one by clicking on the preview first. If we scroll, the preview button gives us a tabulated preview of what will be included in the full report of our model. And if we scroll right down to the bottom of this preview for this particular bridge object, we come to a section with all the report points that we have in our bridge. Now we see that we have report point 1 and 3 at station 97.5, which is the starting chainage for our peer segment. And for this 1 and 3, we get these 3D coordinates in easting, northing, and elevation. The same for the end of our peer segment here, point 1 and point 3 at chainage 102.5. Obviously, that is a 5 meter long segment, and these are the 3D coordinates. And in this line here, we get the connection point X in the middle of our segment, and obviously 3.1 meters down from the top. So here we have a list of the 5 report points that we asked for, the coordinates and the station and all the other information, name of the segment, and the name of the points. This we can copy to an Excel sheet and then, or any spreadsheet program, and continue working on it. We also get the data, as I said before, in our model report. I'm going to the last page because I know that's where we find them. Again, here we have our report point table, just like we saw in the preview. So before signing off on this little example here, I would like to expand this exercise just a little bit by adding the corner points at the start of the bridge and at the end of a bridge to our list of report points. So I'm asking for coordinates here and here and here and here. For this purpose, I will not have to turn back to the box cross section because that section is used throughout the bridge, and we have already specified our prospective report points in the cross section. However, we have not done so for the cantilever segments yet. So I'm bringing up the cantilever segment, which is referenced in this segment group several times over. Turning to the report point list here, to this tab here, I am activating within the segment points 1 and 3 at the start of the segment and also at the end of the segment, using the default naming conventions and storing this definition. Again, calculate all, updates my model, and I'm going to bring up the cantilever segment group next. So as we can see, the cantilever segment is used several times over before and also after the pier segment. We only want to activate the corner points at the very start of this bridge. So I'm going to the first segment here. I'm getting a selection of the 4 possible report points at the start, 1, and at the end, 3. We want the start, so I'm picking 1 in the sub 1 location and 3 in the sub 1 location. 1 and 3 at the start. Using default naming conventions again, I'm doing the same except for the end of the segment at the very last segment of this segment group. Accept, calculate, and if I now go to my bridge object and look at my report points table here, we can see that this has grown and it now includes points 1 and 3 at station 73.5, which is incidentally the start of the bridge, and the same at 126.5 at the end of the bridge. And if we go to our diagram, we can see that also here the program is now indicating the activated report points at the start and at the end of the bridge. There is one more function that I'd like to point out, and that's this button over here. This button over here allows us to get a selection of report points within a bridge using wildcards. And in this case, I've already typed in a wildcard. The asterisk stands for any string or series of characters at the start and at the end. So I'm asking for report points with this wildcard here with a name that includes 1 and an underscore. And if I apply this, I get a list of all report points, including the 1. And as we can see here, we are getting report point 1 in this segment here, which is the first segment. We're getting 2 report points with a 1 in their name at the pier segment, and 1 again at the end of the bridge. So using these wildcard functions, we can filter report points out and ask for specific report points along a bridge. That's especially useful if we have a lot of report points activated and we're looking for certain series along the bridge. Of course, this also implies that we use some thought when naming our points within the cross section, because this one here is the name, and this is the one I've been searching for with my wildcard name selection. This closes off my little excursion about report points, and I hope to see you in the next video, which is sure to come up in the not too distant future.